Welcome back to the series on learning how to build on n8n. And today we're actually taking what we've already learned before and we're using it to build our first workflow. So I'm saying it's our first, it's probably not our first. You've probably been tinkering around either with templates or just like on the n8n sort of interface itself. We're going to talk about the interface later on, but right now we just want to build something very quickly using what we learned in the previous chapter. So, incredible automations are all about execution, right? And this really is true. Like, even with the best frameworks, like, if you're just stuck in the planning phase, then there's no real point. You need to execute. So, yeah, you have to remember our 5 step workflow planning formula. So, you identify the trigger, you list out the steps, you understand where the test points are, and you actually test those points out. You define the outputs, and then you check for any recurrences or loops that are in whatever you're trying to build. So in this case, we're going to be building something incredibly simple. It's going to try to find a new entry in a Google Sheet. It's going to qualify the entry in the sheet. It's going to format an email message to them, and then it's just going to send the email, right? After that, it's going to update the status of the lead in the sheet, basically as someone that we've sent the email to, which is very, very important. And I think very, very easy. Like, just to show you, this is just, it's going to take us literally maybe 4 notes. And I'm just going to show you. So as I said before, we have to think about these 5 steps like every single time. So the test points that we need to figure out is the sort of the all the connections that we're doing, whether it's with Google Sheets or with Gmail, right? Those connections are going to have, limitations, and they're going to put limitations on us. So we have to think about that when we're designing. Also, when it comes to the output, what do we actually want? Think about what speed to lead is all about, right? If someone signs up on your web page and that sort of form on your web page is connected to Google Sheets that immediately populates with their information. You want to get back to them as soon as possible and like just to stay top of mind, right? To just let them know that you understand that they found value in whatever you had to offer. So you just want to, you know, be there for them. And yeah, you get a speedy reply to a lead and they get like that much more sort of confidence in whoever you are, and that means a high chance of conversion. So recurrences or loops, unfortunately, there won't be any recurrences or loops since we're doing this one at a time. So since this is triggering for every new entry, it's going to only run on that single entry. Um, we don't need to check for recurrences since it's going to be doing it once. Again, we're going to run through loops at a later stage. You're just going to, so like right now, this is just going to be a simple, very simple build. So let's do it. We're going to come into here into the n8n interface. We're going to create a workflow. Here for the first thing, what we're going to do is we're going to find Google Sheets, and then we're going to get the Google Sheets trigger on row added. And as I said before, this is just like whenever there's a new row. So think about it in terms of someone signs up on your web page and that row immediately populates with information. That's what we want to catch here with this polling, because like it's going to be polling every minute and we want to find the actual sheet that we want to use. So it's sheet 1, and let me just show you how the sheet looks just so that you understand what's going on. So it's just a sheet filled with like web leads, and it's something that was generated very quickly, as you could tell. But yeah, so say hypothetically a new lead just popped in and her query was partnership proposal, right? She signed up on your webpage and she just wants to partner with you on some huge project. How this is going to look is that you wouldn't have contacted her before, and you also wouldn't have followed up on her, like based on whether or not she contacted you back. So both of these would be empty. As you might see, the other ones might be like filled in, like you contacted and followed up on them because you guys are speaking, or like maybe you just like find it more important to follow up on that. But this type of workflow is both automatic. So the automatic part is the part where you contact them quickly, and then the manual part would be the part where you actually like send a message later on. Again, this can all be fully automated if you had enough information about this person. And we do. We have their name, we have their email. And if we had like more information about like where they come from or like who they are, maybe from social media or from their company or something, then we could do a lot with this. Let's come back in here in n8n. I actually just want to rename this because that's just like a really smart thing that I do. We'll call it demo two. Why not? Or just yeah, just demo. Demo's fine. And then, so yeah, if we check out this trigger, it's Google Sheets trigger account. Again, I'm going to go through how to set up credentials later on, so you can just wait for that to come. But the poll time is going to be every minute, so we wanted to check the Google Sheet every single minute. And then, yeah, the document is this web leads document. And then the sheet is sheet one, and then the trigger is on any row that's added. We can what I suggest you guys do like all the time is to test nodes immediately. So like immediately after configuring them, just test them just to see what like how it actually works. So this is unfortunately returning 6 items right now. What it should be returning is sort of one item if when it's like actually active, and it should be returning one item. But since it's working fine, then we can just move on because, funnily enough, these are all 6 of these items. What we want to do next is want to qualify them because what we want to do is we want to only send emails to people we haven't contacted before. If you might check these out, right? These have all been contacted before. This one is the only one who hasn't been contacted. It's Sarah Wilson. So what we want to do is we want to add an if note in. And the if node is a simple, logic check. It's just like it's checking the logic of true or false, basically. What we want to check for is for the contacted field. So we want to check if the contacted field is true. And again, true is a type. It's a type of a variable that is Boolean. But we only want to make sure that we push people that have the contacted as false though. So that's the condition that we're checking for. I'm going to run this and I'm going to show you something that you're going to encounter a lot when it comes to dealing with data types. And data types is something we're going to be covering in the future as well. So just wait for that. But like, let's check this out. And here we go. Wrong type. Empty string is a string but was expecting a Boolean condition 0 item 5. You normally understand that when it comes to data types are representations of data, right? There's strings, there's booleans, there's numbers, there are arrays, there are objects, all sorts of data types. Even binary is a data type. And what this is doing is it's using the data type to check, right? So it's expecting a certain data type in here, but the data type that came in, as you could tell, there was a condition where contacted was an actual string, but it was expecting a Boolean type that is like either true or false. So it had a type error, right? So what you should be doing is you should be converting types where required. Um, so n8n, or I guess JavaScript, has a method for converting types to Booleans. An empty string is considered false. The number 0 is considered false. An empty object is considered false. An empty array is considered false. Um, like all of these are considered false. And what you sort of can, oh no, not an empty object, because like an object that exists is actually true. A null object is considered false. So yeah, what you like, you can use those to sort of like make some really interesting logical flows in your workflows. Say hypothetically you were searching in your database for a certain condition, but it returned no objects, right? You could just have a check that checks for if whatever object came in, like if it's actually if it has items inside it, whatever the array came in, if it has items inside it. Because remember, n8n works with arrays of objects or lists of items, right? This is a list of 6 items, and whatever is in these curly brackets is the item or the object. Objects are made of key value pairs, and yeah, remember that. So now when we run this, since we're converting the types, then everything should run perfectly. We'll have two branches, true branch and a false branch. And we want to work with this true branch because it's the only one that matters to us. We want to send the email to the person we haven't contacted yet. So let's do that. We'll come here and then we'll just, we'll do a Gmail note. What we want to do is we want to send an email to this Sarah person. You might notice there are 5 items in there, and that just shows that it's working perfectly because those 5 people are people we've contacted already. So we can carry on here and we can send a message. We'll find the node that's for sending a message. And what we're doing is we're going to be sending the message to Sarah's email. So there we go. We can just drag that in there. By the way, what I just did over here is called data mapping. It's basically passing data through expressions. This is the expression json.email. And there are ways of formatting these expressions. There are ways of doing some interesting things inside these double curly brackets. We're going to cover that in the future, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, the two is going to be Sarah's email. The subject is going to be, um, so we're going to make this as generic as possible since, logically speaking, we have 6 different queries, right? We want to account for every single query. So we might add the query in the subject just to make sure that they like we understand that this is what they want. So like a simple query would be just like us telling them that we got their message. So maybe like something like response to, and then we'll just drag in the query again. We'll map it over here. And the email type is going to be HTML, but I'm not going to be typing HTML code. If I wanted to, I could, do some like paragraphs or like some style sort of tags and just do some really cool, colorful stuff. But just for the purpose of this email, what we want to do is want to send a very simple message like, hey, we got your message, um, and we just want to tell you that we'll get back to you shortly. So yeah, like very simple, very easy, and we're just going to test the step again because um, the best thing you could do is to just test every node as you're running, and um, this returns a label that is sent. So that means everything went well, which is brilliant for us. But we're still not done because, as I said before, what we want to do is we want to update the status of the lead, right? So now that we've contacted her, we don't want her information to stay as this empty, contacted um, boolean. So what we want to do is we want to set that to true. And to do that, we'll use another Google Sheet map, of course. So we'll go to Google Sheets. We will update a row here. Let's find that, update a row in Google Sheets. And luckily, we have the information for which row we're updating. Let's just find the Google Sheet first. So we'll find it sheet 1 here, and it's going to ask us for which column to match on. And we're going to use the name. So here we'll just drag in the name, not from the first Google Sheet trigger, but from the if, because that is the most direct line to, um, like, it's the most direct line to what we're dealing with right now. So we don't have to change the email, the query, the date received, or whatever, but we do have to change this, and we're going to just set it as true. Um, this is going to directly translate to a tick over here, and this is something that you also have to understand about APIs and services. They have their own internal sort of data representations. Um, I could have typed something else in here, and it might have been registered as true in there, which is like really interesting thing to think about. So when you're integrating with different services, and again, like using nodes is just integrating. When you're integrating with different services, it's always like a good thing to remember how data is being represented in whatever service you're trying to connect to. So yeah, we're going to set contacted as true here, and let's just test this out. Okay, Sarah Wilson contacted true, and if we come in here, boom, yeah. So everything's working, and that is how we built this. From now on, we could just set this as active, and for any new sort of person that gets added into that, it should be able to send them an email, and then um, everything should go very well. So again, this type of workflow is very, I would say, basic. You might understand something here with the fact that we could totally expand this functionality. Like as I said, if we have contacted them, then we might want to follow up on them. So there might be a follow up flow here. And if we've already followed up once and we want to follow up again, there might be another follow up flow over there. So based on another if node, that's based on the maybe the amount of time. So we could use the date field here. We could even set up like different scores for these leads um, based on the quality of the relationship that we're building with them. And all of that could be automated, just like based on certain things like the vibes that they're giving to us, how we feel, how we are evaluating the communication quality, like how early they respond, how interested they seem, and so on and so forth. And automated workflows like these can really help you sort of know what to do and what not to do. Like they really genuinely save time. So you've now like we've gone through all of this, and again, I spoke about testing sort of generally, but if I were to say it like more realistically, you want to test things one node at a time as you're building them out, and you also want to use fake test data. How you do that? So realistically speaking, is maybe come in here and you could go into the just into the data and actually just start changing it up. So what I mean by that is this Jane Doe had contacted as true, but you could just set it as false, and then just start running. So what you'll see here is that this data is pinned. So this means that whenever this workflow is running, it's just going to keep sending through that data and that data only. Very important to understand that whenever you go from whenever you go from testing phases to active phases, you don't want to have pinned data because then you'll just keep sending the same data again and again. Let's run this, and now we should have two items going through. Okay, perfect. Now we could test out a different kind of version. So as I said before, with type conversions, you could have something like an empty array. And again, this is just a test. This could totally, not work out, but I just want to see what's going to happen. So again, we have two items because it's an empty array, and empty arrays are considered to be false. Okay, so that's how you would test things out by just editing the output of a node, and it's going to just pin that output on the node, and it's going to allow you to test different versions. There's all sorts of different testing mechanisms as well. You could use the code node, you could use the set and edit fields node, and all of these sort of like allow you to build really, really scalable solutions that can take on any kind of input from any kind of service. Because if you build, with all those test cases like sort of in mind, then you'll be able to handle anything, which is like the most important thing. So again, you watch the execution log for errors, and if you don't know what that is, you'll come in here into the executions, and then you'll see this log. So an error is in red, it's very bright, and it's very obvious. So what you can do is just click on it and then drag it into the interface, into the editor again by clicking on this button, and it's going to pin new data. And funnily enough, this was the part where we were having type conversion errors, um, but now that we click this on, it shouldn't be able to have an error. So yeah, and then what you want to do is you want to set breakpoints to debug logic branches. Again, you'll set breakpoints with there are like specialized nodes for those. Like you could use a wait node if you just wanted to give yourself time to like look at the data before passing it through. You could use a stop and error node and then just like have it not be an error, just have it be like a message for you to just look at the whatever's happening. But ideally, you just want to test with sort of fake data at first and then run through with real data. So yeah, that's about it. You know, that was basically just building your first workflow in a nutshell. You've built your first workflow, you're playing the game, all done. But the next level awaits. So we want to take it a step further, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing next time. Until then.